We are joined now by NewsNation senior national security contributor, retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton, former Assistant Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force. Lieutenant General, it's always great to see you. These circumstances, obviously not the best. It's shocking for so many of us to hear that the suspects served in the Army. But as you well know, this is not a standalone story. How do personal struggles like those experienced by this veteran intersect with the risk of radicalization?
Well, good morning, Kelly. It's certainly a dark day for the American people this morning. It just shows that the forces of Islamic radicalism have not gone away. We have 16 million veterans still alive in the United States. And there's something here, though, that's extraordinarily unique in terms of why this, what I call an evildoer, committed this heinous attack against innocent Americans on New Year's Eve. And so what I believe, let me back up. My experience was back in November of 2009. Now, you may recall at Fort Hood, just south of Dallas, there was an Army major. He was a psychiatrist that killed 13 soldiers on the morning of November 5th in 2009. And what we found there, and I was just part of the senior officer early investigation with the Department of Defense, there were what we call these linear events, these linear radicalization of events. One, and your FBI investigator led to this conversation. First, there's something personal going on in his life. And that was case with Major Hassan Nadal. And I'm not extrapolating it as a one-for-one with this terrorist, but they could be similar personal events. And in his case, divorces, financial hardship, and so forth, which then leads to another linear event. It leads to intensification of his Islamic faith or a faith, which then puts him on the path of extreme radicalization where he wants to do harm. It spurns hate is what this does. And so this is one that I'm sure the FBI is going to unpack this, but it's one where we want the American people to know that the forces of Islamic jihad groups such as ISIS can still have an impact even on the soil, of the United States.
Are there ways, common ways, ISIS may be able to identify these vulnerabilities and inspire individuals in the U.S. without any direct contact?
Exactly. They, think of as ISIS as a terrorist brand. They have a reach that has really expanded. They're somewhat of a splintered group. But first and foremost, the events that have led up to where we are this moment is you've got that heinous attack on October 7th of Hamas against Israel, in 2023. And then you've got what we have as a very porous border, which could potentially allow for those who want to influence or do harm to the American people. And this is why it's so very important that we stay on the offensive against these radical Islamic groups such as ISIS. We have a base of operation in northern Syria, anywhere from 900 to 2,000 American men and women in uniform, making sure that ISIS does not come back to harm the United States again. But to take your point, Kelly, your question is, they don't necessarily have to have direct contact. They can have that influence that can really transform beyond just, the region in the Mideast all the way here to the United States and influence perpetrators and terrorists like Jabbar, where we see, allegedly and certainly did this heinous attack just several hours or so ago.
Yeah, and that is a hair-raising element of this story, potentially. Retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton, always appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.